get your hands on the keyboard typing some React code as soon as possible, mostly just to show you that React is not a scary library to be working with. So let's see how we can set up React. Now, I like to think of there as being an easy way to set up React in your project and a correct way of setting React up in your project. For our sake in learning, we're going to start with the easy way, which will also make it so that you can actually just do this in your local environment. Hopefully you're following along here on Scrimba.com, but if you're curious and you're interested, you can always do this on your local environment as well. Now you can see I have a very basic HTML page set up. I have nothing in my JavaScript at all. My CSS is minimal, and we're going to walk through this together. Now I have some slides here, and you can actually click on this screenshot and that will send you to this exact page. In the React documentation, it tells you how you can include React into your project. And we can actually pull in these libraries that we need straight from a CDN. In other words, we can just copy these two script tags here and start writing React code. There's a little more to it, but what I'm going to do is click here, and that's going to open me up to the React page. I'm just going to copy the two script tags that you can see, and over in my index.html, I'm going to put it in the head here. Let me fix the indentation. And I've pulled in the React library and another library called React DOM. Theoretically, this is all I need in order to start writing some React code. Now I'm going to take it one step further, and that's because just pulling in React and React DOM is going to be pretty extremely limiting in terms of using the power of React, unless we also pull in something called Babel. I'm not going to jump in too deep into why we need to pull in Babel. For now, all I'm going to do is click on this screenshot here, which will take me again to a page where I can copy the script tag that you see. And I will paste that in underneath this script tag. And if we look really closely below here, it says you can use any JSX. We'll cover what JSX is later in any script tag by adding type equals text/Babel. So I'm going to do that here in my script tag down here, type equals text/Babel. And that's all the setup we really need. By pulling in the React-DOM library in this script tag, I now have access to a global variable called React DOM. I'm going to use that to render something to the screen. Once again, I'm going to be covering everything that we're talking about here. It's totally okay if this is moving pretty quickly. React DOM.render allows me to render something that looks very much like HTML. Now this might be blowing your mind a little bit because this probably looks a little strange writing some HTML inside of my JavaScript. We're going to see how this is kind of one of the beautiful things that React has added so that we can write really declarative code. Now let's put something inside this H1 that's meaningful. We had hello React over here. Maybe I'll say hello everyone. Okay, in my index.html, I'm going to get rid of this H1, so we're not confusing this H1 with what I'm seeing over here. Now, React DOM.render, the first thing is what do I want to render to the screen? The second thing is where do I want to render it? Well, let's go to our HTML, and I'm going to create a div here, just a completely empty div, and I'm going to give it an ID so that I can select it. We'll call it root, because this is going to be like the root of our entire application. I like to think of this div as a container for the entire website that we're going to build in React. And now that I have a place where I can put my H1 here, I'm going to select it with a regular DOM API document.getElementById root. And surprise, we've written some React code. I'm going to hit save. We'll see that it tells me, hello, everyone. In a single line of code, I was able to use React to insert something that looks very much like an H1. Obviously, this is a little different because we're still inside JavaScript. And I was able to put it right inside of this real DOM element in our index.html. Now, I have an entire lesson that's dedicated to understanding exactly what's going on here. But in an effort to get your hands on the code, get a quick win for you to see that you can write React and it's not too scary, I'm going to give you a few seconds of silence where you can pause the screencast and study this line of code. And then I'll be erasing it and letting you type it again from scratch. In fact, let me write that down as a little challenge here. Okay, pause the screencast here. Spend just a minute memorizing this line of code. Do that now. And then I will add a little comment with the next part. Okay, your time to shine. Rewrite the line of code as best you can from memory. You don't have to put hello everyone or hello React or whatever. You even don't have to use an H1 like I did. You can put whatever HTML you want in there. So pause the screencast now and work on that. Because I pulled in that React DOM library in my CDN, I have a global variable called React DOM, and it has a render method, which allows us to render something to the screen, or kind of, in other words, place something on the screen. And I don't know, let's do a paragraph this time, just to switch it up a tiny bit. Say, hi, my name is Bob. Okay, so that's the element that I want to place inside of this div. Again, this div is a container for the actual elements that I plan on putting on the screen. And the second parameter that I need to include with React DOM.render is, you can think of it as a DOM node that I have to go select with document.getElementById, or because I can also get DOM nodes with something like query selector, that would work just as well. In this case, I'd have to put # root because that's how query selector works. It's the ID of root. Just so this isn't confusing, we'll just keep it as getElementById for now, but just so you know, either one should work just fine. So the first parameter is what do I want to place on the screen, and the second one is where should I be placing this? I imagine under the hood, what render is doing is it's taking this DOM element that we are grabbing with getElementById, and it's running something similar to .append or .appendChild to it. And what is it appending? It's appending this paragraph. We're going to see that it's a little more complicated than that, but that's a good way to kind of build a mental model for yourself as to how this is actually working. So I haven't refreshed the page yet, which is why this still says hello everyone. I'm going to hit save, which will refresh my browser, and there we go. Hi, my name is Bob. This time it's a paragraph instead of a header element, and that's awesome. We have written React in a single line of code. You might have noticed that our console is popping up with this error. You're using the in-browser Babel transformer. Be sure to precompile your scripts for production. A bunch of jargon here that may not totally make sense to you, and that's fine. That's a symptom of us setting up React the easy way instead of the correct way. Soon down the road, we'll be kind of shifting our setup here, and that warning will go away. And awesome. Okay, because this is Scrimba, you can always delete this. If maybe you weren't able to memorize that, you can try deleting it, rewriting it again from scratch. Practice with it. I'm going to ask you to do that a million times throughout this course because the only way to learn React is to write React as much as you can. Now, I have found it really helpful for my own learning to understand why the heck I even care about React in the first place. So in the next couple screencasts, we're going to be talking about some of those really awesome benefits that come with using React as our library for building web applications. But as always, if you want to spend more time with this, go ahead and do that. Pause, click into the editor, start typing what you want to type, practice it. And when you're ready, I will see you in the next lesson. Before we just jump right into theory and